out the fuel tank because there's a lot of old fuel in there and it has a rough startup, so I'm gonna clean it out and put some new fuel in there with some fuel additive. So to start, just want to unbolt these 4 Phillips right here, and you can just pop it up. Let me see here. Pop it up, and you want to remove or push this grommet through the hole so you can get the wires through and the plate off. And next we're gonna get these hoses off here. The one with the Phillips on it, and then the rest just have regular hose clamps. Same with this side. Alright, it was kind of a pain to get that fuel pump out. And shout out to Harbor Freight. I got the bucket and this transfer pump. So shop at Harbor Freight if you bought on a budget. And right now, we're just gonna siphon, transfer all that old fuel into that bucket. There's the fuel pump, and now I'm gonna try to reinstall it. Pretty difficult at one end, but I'm trying to get it. Alright, so I got the fuel pump and hoses reinstalled. Put a new O-ring on it. And we got the transfer pump out. I'm gonna get all that old fuel out of there as well. Already cleaned out the fuel tank with the new fuel filter in. Starts right up. Hell yeah. Alright, so I pulled the inner fender liner off because, I mean, it was already falling apart. And started removing the intake ducting, is what they call it. I'm still need to pull this one off, but here's some of it right here. And I do gotta cap that end off, and also that end right there. I'm gonna be working on pulling off the intake plenum and pulling the radiator. The reason why I'm pulling the radiator is because I was trying to replace the belts, and I was unscrewing the slide bolts and whatnot, and come to find out that it's all seized in there, so the alternator doesn't move, neither does the tensioner. So I gotta pull the radiator, give me more space to work in there, and then I'm pulling off the intake plenum to do some work on the exhaust manifold, and maybe put some shorty headers in there. Most likely will. And yeah, I'm also gonna clean up the intake plenum and paint it. You'll be seeing that later though. So I pulled the front intake piping off. I'm gonna start by draining the coolant from the radiator. Drain the coolant from right here. That's what they call a petcock. And then remove this hose. Remove this hose as well, and then this one. I drained all the coolant from the radiator into a bucket and pulled the radiator. There it is. Probably gonna take off the fan shroud. Don't really need that. And now I got a little bit more room to work in here. Alright, so I took out that headlight. I'm trying to work on getting this one, but one of the bolts is all the way behind here. And it's kind of hard to get to, but I'm getting this headlight off. And I pulled the AC condenser out so I can get to the bolt for the carbon canister lines. It's down somewhere here, right there. I got that unbolted. Now, just pull that out, and it's done. It's trash. All right, so I got both headlights out. And the reason why I took off the headlights is I don't want to mess it up any more than it already is, and I kind of just want it out of the way. So how I got to that bolt, I just removed this thing right here. Ran some extensions from that bolt straight down and got it out. Here's the carbon canister, and I'm gonna pull these hose clamps off and keep them, because if you're smart, you never know if you might need them again. So keeping those, and the lines that come from the carbon canister, got some clamps on them too. Got to keep those, so you never know when you might need them. So you gotta be smart and keep everything, just hoard everything, you know. Some lines here, gonna run to, that's the fuel tank vent line. I'm just gonna fish it through there and then connect it. So what I like to do is use a little bit of lube just to help it get it on there easily, just like that. And then I am just gonna cut this to length and then kind of mount it something like that out of the way. So I actually rerouted it through that hole right there where the filler neck for the coolant reservoir goes through. I'm just gonna leave it like that for now until I can stop by and grab some hose clips that also have a screw that I can drill in and screw into the frame there. But it's fine like that for now. Now I'm working on getting this center support bracket off because the radiator core support is bent because previous owners have been using it as a jack point. It also bent the AC condenser that used to sit right here. I'll show you it right here. Right there. So messed it up, even though probably won't run AC, but I kind of do. But yeah, just gonna get it straightened out. I'm gonna try to beat this as flat as I can. I'm gonna put a 2x4 there to kind of help it line up with the rest of the core support. Alright. And as you can see, I also pulled off the intake plenum to do the EGR delete and some of the coolant line deletes. I'm still kind of working on it. I kind of been putting it off because, I mean, you gotta get all the way back there, and I still gotta figure out exactly how to do it, you know. So that's another thing I've been working on. So the PTU used to be mounted here, and I'm rerouting it. I did some of it right here. I used wire loom, and then I just wrapped it with this Tessa tape. I don't know, I really like the Tessa tape. I used it on my sound system in my truck, and it just looks clean compared to just like regular electrical tape. And it's not as sticky as electrical tape. It's also heat resistant. So this is the before. Here's all the wires hanging off and everything right there. So this is as far as I've gone with the rerouting and rewrapping of the wiring harness. I did a little bit right there for this connector that goes right there. I also had to cut back the factory loom and electrical tape to get this part of the wiring out, and so I can reroute it down over here. And I just stopped right there for now. That's how it's looking, just because I want to get the top end all buttoned up before I finish up down there, because the rest of the wiring harness kind of sits up next to or on top of the intake plenum. But I want to get that all finished up and connect everything that needs to be connected up here, and then I'll be able to finish up and button up everything down here. And as you can see, I did temporarily mount the PTU connectors and everything right down there with there's a factory bolt holder, so I just put a screw in it and mounted it there for now. And that is how it's looking. I plan to have it just come down like that. And then it kind of sucks because I got OCD and the wires aren't the same lengths. So I gotta figure that out somehow, but I'll deal with it later. I deleted the cruise control here and the AC and all the lines. All that is right here. And right now I'm working on gutting the interior. I already got the back half done. All the plastics back there. And I just gotta pull the carpet. I just vacuumed it a little bit because when I pull it, I don't want it to just be dropping dirt all over the place. I'm gonna be finishing pulling off whatever needs to be pulled off in the front. I don't think there's much. I am gonna leave the dash in just for aesthetics, I guess. Apologies for not filming much of the process. Sometimes I just get locked in and forget to film anything, but let me know what you think in the comments. Still a lot of work that needs to be done. A lot of work to get it back and running better than it was. It is gonna take some time, but you'll be seeing more of it in the future. See you in the next one.